Hello everyone, welcome back to another unboxing video and review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Wurkkos FC13. This is a new flashlight that's just been released by Wurkkos. Very exciting. As you guys may have seen, I've done a review on the FC12, which has been one of the most popular videos on this channel. So I was quite excited to get a version of the FC13, and you can see here maximum 3,400 lumens. I think it's a lot smaller than the FC12, especially based on the packaging. 239 meters of throw. It's got the new SFN43 LED in 6500K for maximum brightness. I like the packaging. It's quite minimalistic. So on the back, it's kind of a bit tricky to see here in camera, but it says built-in thermal and proximity sensors to protect against overheating or obstruction. Also comes with RGB auxiliary LEDs, maximum output of 3,400 meters, as we are talking about before. High efficient circuit board provides up to 40 days on A1 mode, delivers constant current to the LED, so it's regulated. And you can see here it goes has all the different modes on the light. I feel like a kid in a candy shop. I really want to open this thing and see what's inside. So let's check it out. Okay, so you just push open, and you've got a nice little magnetic. Is it magnetic? I don't know. Maybe another slidey box. Oh, there we go. That's a magnetic box like that. And you can see here some instructions. Thank you for choosing Wurkkos. Nice manual as well here on the side. Okay. And let's see what you get with this light. So first thing here on the side, I think this must be the, okay, you got the lanyard and you get a cord here, a charging cable. So basic charging cable, but this actually looks a lot thicker, the cord. It's longer as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's like a much longer sort of cord that usually comes with the flashlight, which is good. They usually include like a 10-15 centimeter one. So here is the main star of the show, nicely packaged. Okay, wow, look at that. Look at that bezel. The color of that bezel. It's got this kind of golden, almost slightly red orangey tinge to it at the front. I like that. Let's put some of this stuff away and get a closer look at this. So here is the Wurkkos FC13, and there's a little bit of glue residue left on there. I'll have to wipe that off. But my first impressions is the anodizing, fantastic, smooth, kind of slightly chalky anodizing, but it's grippy. I like a kind of more matte black finish. Can't open the bezel. I think actually the way to open it up is to somehow get a grip of these little indentations. You can see them here, these little indentations. Maybe put something in there to turn it. It's almost like how you take off a watch, the back of a watch. There's a tool that you can use. Double-sided clip, excellent. And these are useful. You put them on your hat and decide whether you want the flashlight facing head up or head down. I like the size of this. It's really fits just in the palm of your hand. It's smaller than the FC12. And just for a comparison, here is the FC12, and certainly significantly smaller, basically like a head smaller. But look at the bezel and look at the size of the reflector. I mean, diameter is definitely a lot wider. It's not as deep as the FC12, that's for sure. But that SFN43 LED, it's enormous. Look at that. This thing probably produced a heap of light. Let's have a look inside. And okay, so you can actually unscrew the head as well. But I'm going to get into the tail. Nice, smooth threads and anodizing, and you've got to sort of remove that insulation tape there. Got that Wurkkos 3000 milliamp hour cell that comes with the flashlight. If you look down inside, it's just got one of those copper buttons at the head. the flashlight. The FC12 had more of a tactical sort of design, as you notice. That's one of the differences I've already figured with this one here. There's no tactical switch on the back. It's more of that side switch, but the side switch is enormous. And look at that. Just put it in and it's glowing. You've got this sort of blue LED here. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3. Yep, so this is definitely comes with Anduril 2. So I've got it on sort of candle mode. You can click and hold, ramp down, double click, turbo, double click again. Whoops, double click, and we've got that turbo. Wow, that is bright. It's hot as well. And I think you click 7 times, if I remember, to change the color. Let me change that blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it doing something? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure this one out later, but there is a way to change the light here to a few different colors. I think that's a really cool addition. You can see here there's a little cutout for the USB-C connector. Fantastic. I wonder if it allows reverse charging as well, so you could potentially use this as a power bank. But I'm really digging the design and the reduction in size as well from the FC12 to the FC13. I mean, it's a little wider, the bezel's wider, but also look at those cutouts here, increasing surface area, especially for this LED, which I imagine will produce a fair bit of heat. And I'm also curious to see how it compares to the FC12 in terms of overall brightness and throw. So we'll see how we go. Orange peel reflector. Let's take off the head of this light as well. Okay, there we go. Easily detached. And I think Wurkkos provides such great value for their flashlights. It's amazing. The build quality, anodization, and just the general machining of this FC12. So I'm going to be doing some beam shots, also some measurements in terms of the candela figures, the throw. Also hang around to the end of the video where I'll give you my final thoughts. I'm going to use this flashlight for a week. I think it's important for me to use this on a day-to-day basis for at least a week so that I can give you an accurate report on how it performs in a real-world scenario. So stick around. Wurkkos FC13. What I'll do is I'll start it on the lowest mode, barely see it, slowly ramping it up, okay. And again, it's the turbo mode, really nice, floody beam, more concentrated in the center. Ramp it down again, ramp it fully to the high mode, and then double tap to access turbo. Just a good step above. It hits those buildings right at the back. FC13. FC13 and turbo. It's more of a smooth beam. Welcome back to the video, everyone. So I've used this flashlight for just over a week now, and I want to talk to you about some of my final thoughts on this flashlight, and hopefully this will help you to decide whether it's right for you or not. So I did go through some of these points in, a little bit of detail, but now that I've had it for longer, I think, I've just got a better understanding. So I think it's a really nice design overall. The anodizing is nice and smooth. It's kind of got this matte black sort of look to it, which I actually prefer. I don't like the shiny stuff. The clip is pretty much the same one that I have on my FC12. I pulled them out and compared them, so they're pretty much the exact same. The FC13 also has a reversible tube, so you can unscrew it and put it in the other way, screw it back in, and that just allows you to carry the light in your pocket with the head facing upwards. It also makes it easier if you want to use it attached to your hat or something like that. I found this big button here really easy to use, and that's been one of my pet peeves with some of my other flashlights. The button just being really small can be tricky to find at night, especially when I'm looking at, say, the IF22A. Has a really small button, same one as the SP35, the SFN SP35. So yeah, this one here, you definitely can't miss it, especially with this aux light here. So I think that's a really good design option. I also like the cooling fins on the head. They're deeper and more numerous than the previous FC12. So I think that's necessary when you've got an LED that produces so much heat. The head of the flashlight can actually be removed. So you can see here there's a little bezel or little retaining ring on the inside of the flashlight. Now, I haven't actually tried opening mine yet. I don't think I want to because I don't want to stuff it up, but I have seen some forum posts of someone using some hot glue on the bezel and using that as a little bit of leverage and grip to unscrew the head of it. So I was thinking it probably, because I mess around with watches a little bit as well, you could probably use one of those watch opening tools, which looks a bit like a compass. If you've got a compass or even some needle nose pliers, you could use that and sort of unscrew the bezel counterclockwise. You probably want to put some kind of material there so it doesn't scratch up the surface or the glass. Probably only want to do that if you were changing the emitter. Otherwise, you're going to risk getting some dust and even worse, stuffing up the flashlight altogether. Now, just remember that if you do unscrew it, it does void the warranty, so Wurkkos does not recommend you unsealing the head. Another cool thing I've noticed, this USB-C port here, it is really nicely sealed. I mean, you really have to get your finger underneath that little edge there to pull it out, but the seal is really nice and sturdy. Oops, just push it back in there. You can already see how tricky it is to get it back in, but I'm really confident with this one compared to some of my other flashlights that have a really large sort of port. You can see even the thickness of this little bit of rubber here, really goes quite deep into the flashlight. So I think that's a really good feature, and this flashlight is IPX68 water resistant, so having this nice seal there is really going to make sure that no water gets in that flashlight. I think can submerge it for a short period of time, but if you're talking about things like general splashes, rain, if you drop it in a puddle or something like that, the FC13 can definitely handle that sort of thing. So let's talk a bit about the LED lens, bezel, and the reflector. So you can see straight here underneath the bezel, it's the SFN43. It's quite a large LED. It's 5mm by 5mm. There's 9 dies as well. So the yellow bit in there, it's tricky to actually see, but the yellow bit is actually composed of 9 smaller squares. So it's very difficult to find information on this LED. I can't actually find the product spec sheet, anything about it, other than just some of the tests people have run online through forums. Okay, so it is capable of over 4,000 lumens. Apparently, in this flashlight, it's rated at 3,400 lumens. The lens is made of anti-reflective glass, so I think that's pretty standard across the industry. I really like the bezel. It's quite an interesting color. It's like a warmer golden orange color, I suppose to describe it. But when you've got the flashlight on, I think it's, I don't know, it just creates a nice little contrast with the rest of the body, you know. With a lot of these flashlights, they just come in the same black color, but just having a nice little highlight just over there, it really makes a difference, and especially contrasted with that aux LED. You can see as well the reflector there. It's an orange pill reflector, so it's more of a floody kind of beam, which is in contrast to the FC12, the previous model, which had a smooth reflector and actually quite a deep reflector as well. So they've changed the beam profile quite substantially in this model. So in terms of the general size of the flashlight, you can already see, I mean, it's a pretty small flashlight. It's very easy to carry around in your pocket. I think it's a perfect EDC flashlight to have around. It's 113 millimeters in length and 29 millimeters diameter on the head. It's significantly shorter than the FC12, kind of similar to size to the first FC11, but just a lot brighter. So the FC11 is 116 millimeters by 27 millimeters for your comparison. I carry this one around with me sometimes and clip it to the edge of my pocket and almost forget that it's there. So here are a bunch of 18650 flashlights. I just wanted to show you all of these together so that you can see the differences in size. So as you can see, the SC31 Pro is probably the slimmest out of all of these, but it's actually a little bit longer than the FC13, as you can see. And if we compare the reflectors, you'll see there's definitely a larger diameter there on the FC13. And here we've got the FC12 and the FC13, and both of them look so different you wouldn't even believe that they were of that same series. And one of the big differences is that you got that tactical button here on the FC12, but look at the reflectors as well. You've got that, you know, very, very deep reflector there on the FC12 housing the SFT40, which has a much smaller die area than the SFN43 here. You know, also got much, you know, not much, but like a decent diameter increase in the head as well. So that's one difference. It's shorter. The button's a lot larger as well. I mean, I'm sure if if it wasn't for this tactical switch, you know, the FC12 would be a little bit shorter. And this one here is the Nextorch E51C next to the FC13. So, you know, a little bit thinner. I think the heads are roughly the same size. FC13 might be a little bit of a larger diameter. Okay, but all of these flashlights very easily be able to fit in your pocket, especially this one here. I think does have a little bit more width on it than the SC31 Pro, but great option for EDC. And I like the fact that it has this double-edged, double-sided clip on it as well. In terms of the user interface and the modes, this is actually my first flashlight with an RGB aux light, and you can see it just, you know, standing out very brightly over here. It's also, I've got the ring light on, so it's drowning out some of the light from there. But even then, you can see it quite easily, and there's actually a few modes which I'll go through. So this is my first flashlight that actually has an RGB aux light, and initially I thought it was a bit of a gimmick, and, you know, am I going to need something like that, or do I even want something like that? But after some time of using it, I find it quite useful, and it's also just a nice little feature so that you can change up the look of the light. And you know, I've got it set to blue at the moment, but I also set it to red. Sometimes there's one that sort of changes in between colors as well. I use that one every now and then. But also the aux light is quite useful because it allows you to display the voltage of the battery. So if you have a look in the manual, it actually talks a little bit about that. But 4.4 volts displays a white color, 4.1 to 4.4 purple, and then it goes to blue, cyan, green, yellow, 3.3 to 3.5 volts, and then you've got 2.9 to 3.3 volts is red. So you actually see that kind of transition between cool to warm in terms of the color range, and you can use that to determine roughly how much voltage is left in there. So this is one of the questions someone asked me in a previous video. They could actually refer a light that had this sort of feature, and yeah, hopefully this is useful for some of you guys. So I'm just going to demonstrate some of the auxiliary lights that you have here, different colors. So it's basically you click 7 times, but you hold on the 7th click. Okay, there we go. We've got a purplish, I think, color. Green, teal or something. This one just changes color. Looks a lot more vibrant in person. I think that's the kind of disco mode. And this one here just changes again between colors, but more slowly. There we go. And back to the beginning again. Oh, there we go. We've got red. So I'll probably just leave it on the red one for now. This light has the Anduril 2 firmware installed, so this is something that can scare off newcomers. Definitely for me when I started collecting flashlights, but after just understanding how to use it, it's a bit of a learning curve, but I wish that a lot of my lights had this UI in it. You can customize the light to whatever you'd like. I mean, you can have a simple mode with just a few levels of brightness. You can have smooth ramping. You can have multiple steps. You can set the ceiling, the lower and upper ceiling. So what that means is how bright and how dim the flashlight is on the different steps. So there's all kinds of things. There's even some special modes which I'll demonstrate in a second. And I use the candle mode. You can even get this flashlight to blink out through the LED the voltage of the cell. So on one hand, you've got this aux light that can tell you the voltage, the general voltage, and you can get the actual specific voltage through just the blinks. So it's really, I mean, that's just a few features, and the manual is many pages long. But yeah, definitely something I really recommend. And if you haven't got an Anduril flashlight, recommend you giving it a try, because there's just so much you can do with them, and they become more of a tool rather than just a light that you switch on and off. Maybe has a few different levels of brightness. But again, it's not for everyone. It is a complex UI. But again, it's only as complex as you want it to be. So you can program it to be more simple if you'd like. Little demo of the candlelight mode. So 2 clicks and then the 3rd click hold, and you can see it's very difficult to sort of yeah, you can see it on the camera, but it creates this kind of flickering effect, and I think it looks quite realistic as if it is a candle. And what I do sometimes is I get like a little bit of colored gel and you know, in a container or something like that, and I stick it over the top to change the color, just make it a little bit warmer, and it functions as a makeshift little candle that you can have around the house next to your bed. I think it's quite soothing, and especially before you go to bed at night. So it's a nice little feature that you get with the Anduril firmware, and you can double tap again and you can access all kinds of things. I mean, that's like the bike flasher. You've got a strobe mode that you can alter the frequency of the strobe as well, which is quite fascinating. I don't see that on many other flashlights as well. And then you've got this one here, which is lightning mode. So it kind of flashes at different frequencies and intensities. And when you have this on at night, just pointing at the roof, it's yeah, quite interesting. I mean, I don't know exactly what you'd use this for. Maybe for a special effect in a video, or you know, just to show your friends or something like that. But I think it's a really cool little feature that you get with the Anduril 2 firmware. And yeah, just make sure you don't look into it. See, sometimes it flashes really, really brightly, and sometimes it's just some softer ones. But I think it emulates a storm quite well. So the FC13 comes with an 18650 cell. Just show you what it looks like. It's a branded Wurkkos cell and button top. Okay, I don't think it's a protected cell, just a button top. 3000 milliamp hour cell, and yeah, 3.7 volts. The fully charged voltage is 4.2. So good that it comes with its own cell and also the charging cable that allows you to charge through this port here. The FC13 also accepts flat top cells. If you have some of those lying around as a backup, you can use them in this flashlight. Another really cool feature of this light is that it can also be used as an emergency charging bank or just an emergency power source if you want to plug something in there. So you need a USB-C to USB-C connector, but again, I think it's a great feature that you don't see on too many of these little flashlights, especially these EDC ones. You tend to see the power bank feature on larger flashlights, multiple cell flashlights. All right, so let's talk a bit about the performance. Now, as I mentioned before, this light comes with that SFN43 emitter, and when you have it with the textured reflector, it actually creates quite a smooth, floody beam. It does have a brighter spot in the middle and is fairly throwy considering how small the head of this flashlight is. It doesn't throw as far as the FC13, but again, you do get a decent amount of throw out of this flashlight. Now, I managed to reach 263 meters, so that was 17,375 lux. It does drop as the brightness drops as well, so it went down after about 10 seconds to 14,500 lux. So that's a range of around 240 to 263 meters on switch on, which I think is pretty impressive, and that meets the stated specifications of this flashlight. Now, the interesting thing about the Anduril firmware is that you can actually program in when the light starts ramping down. So in terms of degrees Celsius, I've set mine to 55 degrees Celsius. Some people set it to 60. I think you can set it, I think 60 is probably the maximum that you'd want to go, because yeah, beyond that, you know, the torch just gets too hot to hold. But the good thing about setting it that high, especially if you can handle the heat of the flashlight, it actually allows you to run it on turbo for significantly longer. So it actually ran using the stock cell for 2 minutes on turbo before ramping down. But one thing to keep in mind is that the light may not actually be reaching the full 3,400 lumens, which is why it can hold the turbo for so long, because, you know, from a lot of reports, this SFN43 LED does run quite hot, so usually it should start ramping down around the 30-second mark. I'll talk a bit more about this later in the considerations. So this light comes with an FET driver, and for some of you probably don't know what that is, or you probably don't mind, but basically it is a driver that allows you to obtain the maximum brightness out of the battery, but it's unregulated. As that battery voltage starts to sag, the light will get dimmer and dimmer, so there's not a constant current going to the LED. It's more efficient, but again, that's one of the drawbacks of having a FET driver. It reminds me a little bit of the Sofern IF22A, and that has a similar sort of driver in there. It's not a big deal for me because I use this light for general use, and especially allows you to just get the maximum brightness out of the LED. So I measured the color rendering index with my Opal Lightmaster Pro. I got a score of 73, which is decent. I mean, it's 70 and above, I think, is probably the minimum that I'd expect, but it's not, you know, it's nothing like the Nichia 519A that does get in the high 90s. And I also got 7200K on turbos, so it's on the cool end for sure, but looking at the delta UV value for this flashlight, it's actually a pure white light, so there's no variation in terms of you know, it being more green or more sort of magenta based. So all in all, I guess what I really like about this flashlight is just how bright it is for its size. It's got a really nice practical little beam here, so it's more of a floody beam. I find that with the FC12 it's very difficult to use it for closer range purposes around the house. Just areas where you don't want too much of that hotspot in there. This flashlight still has a hotspot, but there's a lot more of that floody beam, and you can also lower this quite further down and get it almost to the point where the LED is off. So it's actually on at the moment. You can barely tell. You can see it there, but that's a true moonlight mode that you can set onto here. So it's really quite versatile. I like these this aux light as well. I think it's just a nice addition. I never thought that I'd like something like that, but just being able to customize it and even have it in your pocket and you can see a bit of that light there in your pocket as well. Makes it easy to find the flashlight at night. You can also change the brightness of the aux light, so you don't have to have it so bright as well. You can dim that down just so that it's barely visible, but still be able to locate the flashlight. The Anduril UI is definitely a big plus for me, and personal preference, because I just find it to be one of the most versatile, useful UIs that you get in a flashlight. And I know for some people, I mentioned before, can be complicated, but again, you can just use the modes that you need. And at the end of the day, all you have to do is basically turn on the flashlight, hold the button down to ramp up and down, and that's basically it. You can double tap for high and then double tap again for turbo. So those are the basic functions of Anduril, and you don't have to use all the other features if you don't want to. Another good thing is that it does come with a 1-year warranty. So again, for peace of mind as well. So in terms of considerations, now you may need a high drain cell to get close to that 3400 lumens from this light. And the reason why I say that is because I had a chat with Jacob from Piercing the Darkness. He has his own YouTube channel here as well, and he ran a test with the stock cell and got just 2000 lumens. He ran the same test again on a Samsung 30Q, which has a higher drain, and got close to that 3400 lumen mark. But again, that was in his sample and test. I just wanted to share the results. Joseph also uses the FL1 standard in measuring his flashlight. So basically what that means is that he takes the lumen measurement at the 30-second point. So as you know, with small flashlights like this, when you turn that flashlight on turbo, it's not going to be able to dissipate that heat very well. So it's really just a matter of seconds before the thing starts ramping down. And that's something I've accepted with small flashlights. And if you want something that's going to be able to hold a few thousand lumens for a considerable period of time, this isn't the type of flashlight to get. You're going to want something with a larger body, larger cooling fins. But I think it's pretty cool that you can squeeze out 3000 plus lumens from a flashlight of this size. I mean, years ago, something like this would have been impossible to even think of. Personally, I'm not fussed about the battery. I'm just happy using the stock cell, carrying it around as an EDC. I'm currently building a lumen box, and until then, I don't have a way of testing the overall output. But as soon as I do, I'll update some of the figures and let you guys know what they are. The other thing I wanted to mention, I guess another consideration, and it's more of a personal thing as well, just wish it through further. And I guess because I just missed the throw of the FC12, getting used to that previous model. And it was something I passed on to Terry as well from Wurkkos to see if he was willing to trial an NM1 or PM1 emitter instead. Those are smaller, lower powered emitters, but they throw a great distance, especially if you could somehow fit a smooth reflector in there. So obviously less heat, less lumens, but you're going to get extra throw out of it. And if Wurkkos could make a few iterations of this flashlight, I think that would be really interesting, give you guys some more options. If you want a budget-friendly pocket rocket of an EDC, this is a great option. I'll put the link down in the description if you want to check it out to find out some more information. And if you like this video or you found it helpful to you, I'd appreciate if you click the like button, so that just helps my videos get out to more people. If you want to see me make some more reviews, then make sure you subscribe.